Welcome to the Red, White, News Show with Dean McMurray, the military.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another great episode of the Red, White, and You Show with yours truly, the military medium. Today, friends, I have Brock Bevell. That's right. Brock is a 7.5-year police veteran. And he's here today to share his story about his journey and about what he's doing. I think that you're really going to enjoy this. Just really helping change the trajectory of so many other men and women out there, not just the folks wearing the boys in blue, as they say, but everybody else in between. Brock, welcome to the Red, White News Show, brother.
Hey, man, thank you so much. I'm honored to be here.
It's awesome having you. So share with us a little bit who Brock is. You know, we know that you're a dad. We know that you served as a cop in many capacities for about 7.5 years. But you know, kind of what's your story for those who don't know Brock?
Man, I love that. That's a good segue, man. I almost have two different lives. You know, I know we talk about having 9 lives in this life, but you know, I was raised in Arizona, big family, had an opportunity to live out of the U.S. for a couple of years. I served the church mission. And so very structured family. All of us were athletic, played college football in Arizona. And when I got home after my second year in college, I decided to try to become a police officer. You know, that was like my first love. I always wanted to be a police officer. I think everybody says that. They either want to be a hose dragger or a police officer, you know, growing up. But my dad, he was actually a police officer early in his life. I believe he spent about 3 years on the department and just hung it up because he wanted to be a coach and a teacher. But I went through his closet one day and there was his uniform. And I put that uniform on. I'm like, man, if this is what it feels like at this young of age, I'm in. Right. So, you know, I have 5 beautiful children. I'm on my 3rd marriage. I was involved in heavy addiction for 10 years. I know you said I was a police officer for 7.5. That wasn't by choice. I was actually run over. And so due to that injury, I went home. Doctors continued to prescribe. I continued to eat them. And there's a lot to that, why that happened. But I am a different person again today because of that addiction. And so that's what I hope we kind of get into.
Right. Well, one of the things kind of talking about that, I was reading a little bit about your story about when all that happened and kind of, going back to that come to Jesus moment, right? That moment of clarity of where your whole life is in disarray when you looked around. But the thing that wasn't was the different pills that you were taking. You had them lined up by strength in your medicine cabinet. Is that correct?
Yeah, I had them actually named and I had some strength and how many pills I had left.
Wow. It's pretty powerful as far as the addiction piece. And what really gets to me is that, you know, the military has a big persona of the same thing, right? Regardless of whether it's the police department, whether we're dealing with any service related, I guess, work. A lot of times they want to just prescribe something to get you back out there and almost leave you feeling like you were a tool, like, hey, let's just use this thing up, right? And just feed it some, what we used to call as candy, right? So that's, just take a handful of Motrin, powder your feet, move out.
That's kind of the double-edged sword. Number one, when you're a police officer, you love that thrill. You love that excitement. Like I was living a life in chaos and I loved it. But then I also, when I went to my doctor after I was run over, I remember him saying to me, because you're a cop, you'll never get hooked on this stuff.
Right.
And that kind of rang a little bit odd for me because I had worked narcotics. I had worked undercover. I'd sold pills. We had bought pills. I mean, we knew the
Sure.
life. But when he prescribed it to me, he was prescribing me even more than I probably needed, because it's like
Right.
it was a testing phase, and that's what kind of that got me.
Right. Yeah. Well, and the thing is too is, it's designed to remove the pain, right? So, not wanting to feel the pain or live in pain, that can become addictive as well, correct?
Well, Dan, sorry, Dean, what's interesting is when you talk about the pain. So I was living in pain from my injury. I'd sustained a broken ankle. A truck hit me. My knee was blown out, so I was having multiple surgeries. But then the retirement, because of the nature of the injury, I was home. And so going from that chaos life, it was almost like I talk about it being like nitro circus, right? Working that type of lifestyle to going home. And now I'm changing my baby's diapers.
Right.
I was doing mom duties, which, I mean, there are many men out there that do a great job at it, but it just wasn't my lifestyle. So when you talk about that pain, I was trying to cope with the physical pain because I had it, but the emotional pain from losing my team, losing the department, losing my identity. You talk about the boys in blue, the thin blue line. I felt like it was gone and severed, and I'm at home. And no offense to those guys, they just had to keep going to work. Right. They were working, and I was at home because I was out. And so for me, I noticed that the pills also covered that emotional pain. The more pills I took, the better I could function. Got it.
A lot of people don't talk about the emotional pain, like even those in the military, obviously, is when anybody transitions from doing something for a long time and really loving it. So whether the military, maybe police department, whatever, is making that change and almost going through a sense of grieving, a sadness, that transition of who, I have identified as this police officer or this soldier or, XYZ for so many years now. Who am I? This guy that is, in your case, changing diapers or whatever your duties were at that time, right? So you're all of a sudden now, hey, it's Tuesday during the week, I guess, instead of being in pursuit of somebody, I'll go start up the lawnmower, right?
Man. And you are so right. The identity that I lost was that brotherhood,
right?
Because they're gone immediately. And people may say different, like, I don't know how the military is, but and this is kind of a detriment. We don't take care of each other once we leave. And it's not because we don't love each other or care about each other, but because we're not there. We're not in the moment. Like, we still got to go. We still got to continue with the job.
Right.
And I'm not there any longer. So out of sight, out of mind. And that's where you're seeing all of these 8 suicides in New York City, right? Guys in their cars shooting themselves. That should never happen. As a soldier, right? And as a police officer, we understand the level of brotherhood and what you'll do for one another in battle.
Right.
So why don't we carry that outside of battle into our own lives?
Right. No, well said. I mean, and those are great questions. And it's interesting to me that there wasn't anything set up for a transition aspect. In the military, of course, they do that, but it just seems to be lacking in so many aspects. So it's interesting that the police department, or maybe some departments do, I'm not privy to the makeup or breakdown of that. But so take us through. So you're transitioning. You're transitioned at this point. You're at home, the full-time dad thing now. You started having problems, or you started going through the divorce, right? And now that's on top of everything that you're trying to. Was that the straw that finally, was that the come to Jesus moment, or was that?
It wasn't. And you know what's interesting is I was able to mask all of that. I was the last guy to understand what was going on, right? My wheels were falling off. I'm still driving down the street, on three wheels. And my wife saw it. My kids were feeling it. I started chasing those behaviors. And so what I noticed was, as I was chasing those behaviors, I started living outside of my marriage. I was trying to recreate that chaos. I was becoming unfaithful with my wife, so all of that led into my demise.
Okay. Well, and it's great now that you're able on the outside to be able to look back at those lessons, right? And to see those, I guess, icebergs, we could call them, that added to the overall. So kind of take us through, like, so you have this pivotal moment in your journey, Brock, that all of a sudden it was, we alluded to it a little bit earlier, that, at that one moment in time where you're looking at these pills in your medicine cabinet, right? And you had everything else, I think, was described as everything else physically in the home was completely disarrayed. It was a mess, except for the pills in your medicine cabinet. And, what did that look like? And realistically, that journey for you, because I think there's so many out there that are wanting something. It's almost like the drowning person's mentality, right? It's like, I know I need help, but I don't want to bug anybody, or I feel like a burden, right?
So you hit it right. My pivot point, or my rock bottom, was the moment I went in my cabinet, saw the pills, and when I shut that cabinet, it gave me a glimpse into my life. And when I was looking into my life, my house looked like a crack house. I had done thousands of search warrants on crack houses, right? And here I am living in one. And so that was the moment. And out of haste, and this is what I need to preface this, and this is where I blew it. This was the worst decision of my life. I opened my cabinet, opened all my pills, and dumped them in the bathroom and the toilet, flushed it. And I joke about, if I could have been a scuba diver, when I realized, oh my gosh, I would have reached down in there and popped the pill just to get out,
Right.
Because I realized what I'd done is, now I'm out. I have no pills.
Right.
I had just gotten a refill. I'm empty. I can't go to the doctor and say, hey, I lost 360 pills. I can't.
Right,
How do you do that? Right. And so, but I'd wanted to stop. And this is where people have to, that are in my same spot. They understand, like, we want to stop. Right. Nobody wakes up in the morning and said, listen, I want to be an addict today. It's just not what we do. But we're stuck in this progressive, like, routine that we can't get out of it. Until we break that routine, you're not going to get off and stop being addicted to it. And so that was my pivot point. I said, you know what? This is where I'm going to take that stand. Like, I've been talking about it, like, nut up, glove up, like, this is your time. And so I spent 7 days. The next 7 days I stayed in my bathroom, and that was the worst time of my life. I think it was physical. I was throwing up. My body felt like it was going to break. I had thrown up so much. There was nothing else in my body. I'm dry heaving. My backbone felt like it was coming out my mouth. I defecated on myself and urinated on myself and threw up on myself. And this is why people don't want to get off opiates.
Right.
They don't want to get off it because they understand that withdrawal process, because what happens is the receptors, the opioids, attack your receptors and it logs onto them. And so it bypasses the pain. As soon as they start falling off, your body's on fire. Your pain is back. Your emotional, physical, spiritual, every pain that you've ever felt is back. And so people are like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. So I'm going to take a pill and relapse, and use. And so, Dean, that was the hard point, is making that and not buckling. Because there were so many times, and I even told God day 3, I'm like, okay, God, if you just let me get out of here and walk out, that deathbed confessional that we talk about. Hey, I'll
Sure.
never do this again. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, if I could just get one pill to stop this pain,
Right.
I'm gonna be okay. And I heard him say, you're not even close. There's no way I'll let you out of this because you'll go and use. And I'm like, oh my gosh, here's God talking to me at day, you know what I mean? And people are like, you were probably hallucinating. Man, all I know is I wanted out of pain. And so I sucked it up and spent another few days there, 4 days. And on that 7th day, I had that agreement. I said, okay, God, here you go. Listen, I'm not in control here. I understand. And you talk about in AA and in recovery, you got to have that moment of surrender.
Sure.
You whether you're a believer in a God, a nature, a doorknob, whatever it is that people say they believe in, you have to give that power up because we can't do it. And that in that bathroom, that's where I realized nobody was coming to save me. There was no SWAT team. There was no rescue team. There was no family. I'd either lied about it, manipulated, hidden it, because I worked undercover. I knew how to talk. I knew how to hide this from my wife and kids. I knew how to mask it. And so I did until I didn't, until I finally made that decision where I was done. And that was the pivot point.
Wow. Do you believe now, looking back of all those years, do you feel that moment of flushing all those pills for an addict to flush something that fed, do you feel that was something more than you, maybe divinely guided, whatever you call it? Like, saying,
I think, to be honest with you,
yeah,
it was, I wanted to fight. It was like, I didn't want to be in pain, but I was so angry and I was hasty. In that decision. That is not the way to detox. Everybody needs to know that that's the dumbest way to detox. You could die from it. You need people. There's medical treatment that can help you get detoxed, but that's the only way I was coming out of it.
Right.
And if I had used medication to get off, I don't think I'd be so staunch today. I don't think I'd have 11 years of sobriety, because that detox, those withdrawals make me think, I'm like, I can feel it today and taste it like it happened yesterday. So I'm like, oh no, I'm like terrified of going back through that. I'm scared.
Right.
Right.
Well, and sometimes we need that visceral reminder, right, for some of us so we don't go back on that, go back to that aspect of that. So when you come out of this self-induced detox, we'll call it this time, what what did that journey look like? Here you are crawling out of this bathroom, and then, what's your next steps? All of a sudden, do the clouds part and all of a sudden you had clarity? Or
what was interesting is I didn't know about AA. I didn't know about NA or finding a sponsor. I didn't know about that. I didn't even know about addiction.
Right.
So I was novice. I went to work and started finding my passions at work. And it was a assistant or a principal. I was an assistant principal at a local junior high school. My principal was an amazing man, inspired man. His daughter was working in a recovery center in Prescott, a part of Arizona. And he comes in my office and shuts the door one day. He says, "Why are you here?" And I'm thinking, I love this job. He goes, "You're just here for a paycheck. You know that, right? You're good at it, but this isn't your passion." And I'm looking at this guy. I mean, we were friends. Like, he was a great man. Right. And he goes, "You need to run a recovery program. This is not the place for you." Right. So then I started researching recovery programs, put a lot of my effort and time in that, went up to Prescott, checked that program out, came back and said, "You know what? This community where I live in Sholo, Arizona, we need a rehab." And so I ran a rehab, man. I started my own recovery center with a doctor, with a psychologist, and one man came in, and we lived with him for 24 hours a day and rotated. So I got to live it. I got to learn recovery at the ground level, which for me was amazing.
Right. Wow. And then that just grew into something bigger than, what did that expand into? What?
We helped a lot of men. The problem for me is being a first responder. My brain's a little bit different. I want to work with men and women who are first responders. Mm-hmm. And I was working with different individuals, amazing humans, amazing people. But I felt like I was having a hard time matching and identifying with a 19-year-old heroin addict that's been on heroin for 4 years. It still lives with mom. I just didn't understand it. I didn't feel like I was doing a great job. So I left that company and moved down to the metropolitan part of Arizona. And now I just work with men and women in law enforcement, first responders. And this is really important to understand. I realized I was missing the right people. Mm. And what I mean by that is first responders can't leave home for 30 to 60 to 90 days.
Right.
They just can't physically do it for the paycheck. They can't leave work for that long. They can't use their insurance through the department without them. Hey, I'm an alcoholic. That's really tough to do.
Right.
And so that's what I did is I recreated a program where these men and women can respond. We do it online, and it's we can do 30, 60, 90 days, but at their time when they're available off shift.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So we just kind of met them in the middle a little bit.
Nice. And have you seen good results as far as you said doing it online? Now, does that have the same effect as something maybe in person or?
What's interesting is I feel from what we've seen and what the response has been, it's a better connection because we all meet together. So we do different times. So if I have a group that comes in at 10 o'clock in the morning, Eastern time, they meet together. So we brief just like we would in any aspect. And then we debrief every day. So we get a new challenge. We show back up the next morning. We debrief. Hey, how did you do? Well, I didn't do so good here. I looked at porn again, right? Well, let's talk about it. We throw it out there to the group. We hammer it out and we fix it. We give you a plan to go and redo it. So you have a lot of minds kicking in that are like-minded people.
Right. Very interesting. So, is this where the Chase the Vase challenge came from? Is that what sprung forth that kind of project? And if you could share with us a little bit what Chase the Vase is for those unfamiliar with that.
Yeah, Chase the Vase. That's a military philosophy from a book called The Go-Getter that was written years and years ago, and is about a World War I veteran that was injured in battle. And his job was when he got home from the military, he was looked upon as different. He was wounded, right? He limped, had a noticeable limp, lost an arm, but he still wanted to come in and work. And so his boss put him on a quest or a test called the test of the blue vase. And the blue vase and what we do is it's sobriety, right? For me, it's sobriety. For you, it may be an amazing marriage, right? You're struggling. Maybe for another person, it's to get off pornography. For another, it's to lose 20 pounds. Whatever that vase is, we're chasing it, right? We have to identify, know what it is, know what it looks like, and go attack it. But if we never know what we're looking for or what we're trying to understand, what we're trying to battle, we can't beat it.
Right. No, and that's interesting. You talk about, I think you're alluding to getting really clear in the, what you're trying to overcome, right? And, talking about Chase the Vase as far as that World War I veteran continually being faced with all these obstacles, right? Just it was almost silly. I was reading the story about, missing the train, and then one thing after another. And it was all set up to test him, to see how determined he was to continually try to meet the standards or meet the mission, right? And, instead of just giving up and, and kind of blowing his boss away by, in the end, obviously, meeting the challenge, but saying, well, I was always told never give up. Basically,
it will be done and I will do it.
Yeah, there you go. That's exactly what he said. Yeah.
But what's interesting about that and why we do it is if you think about the times that we've started something and quit something before the magic happens.
Yeah.
Right? We want to lose weight, but we do a really good job for 15 pounds. We just can't lose up 5 pounds because we give up. It's like, oh, come on, you're so close. Why are we giving up? Right. But life happens and we just take different directions. And so we're trying to teach people mental toughness more than anything.
Right. No, that's a really great. So you talk about mental toughness, resiliency is a big part of what you guys talk about. If you could, is share a little bit what the program basis and how all that works.
Yeah. So what we do is it's called Chase the Vase Challenge. We take 30 days of your life. And so what we do every day is you'll meet us and we'll go through some different, for example, today we're doing 30 days of cold showers. Okay. Which is kind of it's a mental toughness thing. I mean, it doesn't kill you. It doesn't hurt. It just makes you go mental.
Right.
Right. This weekend we did the 4-4-48 by David Goggins, where I took a group of men up to the White Mountains and we hiked. So for every 4 hours, we went 4 miles for 48 hours. And people are like, why do you guys do that? Well, I got to know if I'm mentally tough because in my real life, if something hits me in the face, right, can I handle it? Or do I just buckle every time like I have in the past?
Mm-hmm.
And so those are some of the challenges. They're not always that in detailed. Like not the day one, I'll give it to you. Pick a damn date. Pick a date to start this path. Right. So if it's going to be a diet, go to your house, clean everything out of your house. That's going to keep you from having a diet. All the M&Ms and Skittles, right? The Klondike bars, get rid of everything. And let's start. Let's be real about this. And so it's interesting when you actually put that date down, you post it on Facebook, you tell people I'm working 30 days, I'm going to lose 20 pounds. What happens to your life?
Right. Well, you're trying to hold yourself accountable, right? A lot of people are subliminally, even at maybe a subconscious level, trying to invite people in to get some accountability, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And that's part of it. Invite a friend, invite a swim buddy.
Right. Well, and a lot of times, I think where, when people talk about group fitness or get a friend that, that pulls you to the gym, or, if you're always like that, because we're always going to have the days, right, that we don't feel like you talk about the cold shower challenge, right? Like we don't feel we want to take a darn hot shower. Well, but the individual, come on. It's just, 5 or less than 5 minutes, jump in, jump out, you're done. Trying to encourage you, support you, uplift you, right?
Yeah, we're kind of soft. We're kind of soft people. Honestly, we've gotten lazy. We have, and I'll tell you, there's a difference between taking a cold shower in Arizona and Buffalo. Okay, let's be honest. I live in Arizona, so the coldest we get is what, 50 because our pipes are warm, but in Buffalo it's like 32 degrees. They're freezing. So, but yeah.
No, and I get it. I live in the Midwest, and it does get cold here, but at the same time as regardless whether they're cold showers or going to the gym or whatever it is, you can really apply that to any area of life. Let me ask you, Brock, if somebody is going through a challenge right now, somebody in the corner of their world, in their reality, regardless of their background, they're listening to this today. what is, maybe a few things that they could do today to start setting themselves up for success tomorrow and the next day?
Perfect, man. I love that. Number one, get the right people in your corner, right? There's too many people that we're hanging on to that are bringing us down. Comfortable, right? The people that we drink with, you don't show up, they get mad that you're not there drinking. You start changing your life. I talk about these crabs, life with crabs. Like you put a bunch of crabs in water, they try to climb out, they'll grab each other and pull each other down. That's so interesting in addiction. We do the same thing. We see a guy start to elevate and change, we try to bring him down. Oh yeah, look at him, he thinks he's better than us. Hey, hang around with the right people. And then number two, start somewhere. It's so crazy where we want to start, we want to make changes, but we don't start that forward movement. You need a pivot point. So find the right people and move your ass. I'm sorry but you got to move.
No. Yeah.
You got to move.
No. Yeah. Don't apologize. No. And it's interesting because there's so many aspects that, when you talk about start somewhere, a lot of people say, well, I don't even know where to start, Dean. I don't, it's like, I want to wait until today's Monday. I'd like starting on Fridays because I feel, or whatever the case is, they feel that there's always a perfect date. There's always a perfect time. But guess what? Spoiler alert, there is no perfect time. There is no, right? It's never going to, the stars aren't always going to align and, be 110% perfect, right?
Yeah. So if you're going to pick that date, make that your date.
Yeah.
Too many people use the date, January 1st as their pivot point. It's like, dude, come on, man. Right? Tomorrow is as good as January 1st.
Right. Or an hour from now. Come on.
There you go.
It's like, so, but
it's little changes. It's little changes.
Right.
Like, let's be real. We're not trying to change the world today, but you don't need that ice cream after work. Start simple.
Right.
Start simple.
Or maybe get an extra walk-in or whatever the case is, right?
Absolutely.
Move the printer in another room, make yourself walk from your desk to the printer. Yeah. And a lot of people, I think it's overlooked. Everybody gets into this analysis paralysis and getting ready to do something. And they never seem to get around to it. And it's frustrating.
That's why I don't give my guys a lot of time, and guys and ladies. I don't give them a lot of time. Right. It's like, okay, guess what we're doing tomorrow? And we throw it out because once you're thrown into it, you can handle any situation.
Right.
I feel like that preparation time takes way too. It's like you said, man, it's way too much thinking. What do I need? Like if you have 24 hours to get yourself ready, you can handle it.
Right. Well, and a lot of times too is, if you give yourself too much time, you'll talk yourself out of it. It's you'll find the
so true
and be like, let's not do that. But well, cool. Brock, where can they go to check out more about Chase the Vase, about your podcast, and all that great stuff? Where can they check?
All the same name. It's Chase the Vase podcast, where I spend a ton of time with military, police, fire. I mean, we're just trying to help people with addiction and PTSD and anything you're struggling with, mental toughness. And then I have the challenges at chasethevasechallenge.com. My website's Chase the Vase. I can be found on Facebook. Message me at Brock Bevell or Chase the Vase. I mean, I'm all over on those platforms because this is important to us.
Absolutely. I love it. Brock, thank you so much. Thank you not only for your service to community and everything else, but as a police officer, but thank you for what you choosing to continue to serve in that capacity to help others. And that can be a long road to slog, right? It can be a challenging one, but thank you for stepping up to the plate, brother, and doing that. And we look forward to keeping tabs to what you're doing, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you. It's an honor, honestly. Thank you.
You bet.